We have Logan Miller from our pet policy speaking to AVID investors tonight. And on pets, more than 2/3 of tenants and people out there have pets. So if we don't allow pets, we are basically ruling out 2 out of 3, more than 2 out of 3 of every renter. And it can be more cost effective to allow pets if you do it correctly. And doing it correctly would mean also not forcing people into going for an emotional support letter, which just about anybody can get these days if a pet is not allowed. So we also talked about the difference between an emotional support animal and an actual proper service animal today. And it's always really important to remember and acknowledge, we don't ever want to disallow someone's emotion. We want people to have what they need. If they have a disability and have a trained pet and need it, it's not a pet, it's an animal, and we're not trying to get around that. But we are trying to get around people who are bringing in untrained animals and getting fake ESA letters. And they're doing that in response to some pretty staunch pet policies out there. So it can be more cost effective to allow the pets to screen or have ourpetpolicy.com screen your companion letters, your emotional support and letters to avoid unauthorized pets, and to implement policies where you notice if people have unauthorized pets, and have teeth in your lease that address pet violations and animal violations so that people know what they're up against if they decide to get a pet, and it's easier not to tell the landlord or decide not to pick up after it. HUD allows letter verification. So on the list of do's and don'ts, if you get a letter, go ahead and verify the letter. It's your right to do so. And let tenants know in advance that those letters are going to be verified. And have a robust animal accommodation form, but don't ask about a disability, because that's now pushing the limits. Now you're getting into people's personal business. And if they have a disability and they have a legit letter, that's all we need to know as landlords. Probably all we should really want to know as landlords as well. And if someone does have a disability, don't charge them fees, because that is not a pet. It's a crutch. It's an animal. It does not adhere to a pet policy, because if it's a true disability, it's not a pet. And so when you're asking that question, can I charge for it? Well, you can charge for pets, and it's a good way to do so. And having a good lease and good pet rules and good pet checking is going to bring you more profits and more possible tenants. But if it's a service animal or an emotional support animal, it's not a pet.
And let me just jump in real quick. Always call it an animal addendum as well. If you call it a pet addendum, then they could always argue that, oh, those rules, that you want a pet to abide by, I don't have to because mine isn't a pet. But if you call it an animal addendum, then, that waste management, all those other rules, they still have to abide by those. So.
Fabulous. And also, I really liked the point that you made about when you're looking at your decision on how to do deposits, having some of the pet fee be refundable and some of it not refundable. That way, you don't have to prove that that tiny carpet area was a little better before, and that's above and beyond normal wear and tear. Some of it you're automatically keeping because the house had more wear and tear, but there's still an incentive for them to be good tenants because they'll get some money back at the end of the day if their pet is a better pet. So AVID investors, thank you for being here. I'm Stacy McBain with Swope Investment Properties.
I have a question.
Thank you. Okay, more questions. Dave.
Yeah, well, I think that, number one, I thought this has really been a great meeting. It's well worth my time. So thank you, Stacy, for putting this on. And I thought that was a great presentation, Logan. Quite informative, very worthwhile. I've been doing this for a long time, but I have had lots of questions. You answered many of them. One of the things you didn't answer much about is what the costs are for the landlord and the tenant to sign up with you. I'm quite interested in doing it, but could you say just a little bit about that?
Yeah. And so once we have all the tools in place, like I was telling you, that pet mapping tool, and then also the curriculum for the tenants, our goal is to charge $5 per month for ones that do have an animal. And our goal is that in reducing the fraudulent emotional support animals and lowering the unauthorized animals, that you're gonna have a return on your investment right there. And then also that curriculum is going to, the tenants are going to learn how to better take care of your property and be more responsible with their animals that, that'll save on damage as well. So.
So you charge the $5 a month to the, how does that charge work? Is that charged to the tenant or the landlord, or how does that work?
Yeah. So right now we just have the landlords are covering it. But in the future, we'll have it to where you could opt that it would be a service that the tenant signs up for and that they would pay for.